Let's keep this simple and honest. The Bills came into Arrowhead and dominated the early narrative. From kickoff through the first half, Buffalo dictated leverage and tempo. Their pressure plan on Patrick Mahomes was surgical, and their run game bullied the Chiefs' front. When you watch the plays back, what stands out isn't one crazy exotic wrinkle. It's consistent fundamentals executed better than Kansas City's. On the offensive side for Buffalo, James Cook repeatedly found the edge. Those outside zone and misdirection runs displaced our defenders at the line, created seams, and turned routine snaps into 5 to 8 yard gains. You saw McDuffie and Chanel get pushed out of ideal angles on multiple snaps. When that happens, even the best tacklers are forced to recover instead of finishing plays. That's the kind of thing that compounds. One missed angle becomes a second and long, and suddenly the defense is in reaction mode. Now about Mahomes, the stat line doesn't lie. He took 13 hits and was sacked 3 times. But the bigger issue was how Buffalo's rush plan affected his pocket presence. Rather than being a clean, composed drop-back QB reading progressions, Pat was often being nudged into uncomfortable shapes, rolling, throwing off his platform, or locking onto a target while defenders were collapsing lanes. When the offensive line isn't giving consistent depth, and when an elite rusher like Joey Bosa wins his battles, throws that should be catchable turn high or late, you could see it on a handful of plays where the wide view looked like there were options, but the ball either came out elevated or too late. Defensively, the Chiefs struggled to create pressure early, and that allowed Josh Allen to pick apart matchups. There were coverage busts, receivers released inside, defenders slipped on blocks, and Allen exploited spacing with quick reads. That combination, poor containment, missed tackles, and not enough early pressure, gave Buffalo the control for the majority of the game. But it wasn't all doom. The late third quarter, early fourth quarter period showed the Chiefs can adjust. Chris Jones started to generate push, and a few schematic changes slowed Buffalo down enough to give the offense hope. That's important because it means this wasn't a total breakdown. There are teachable moments. If you want more breakdowns like this for every big Chiefs game, please hit subscribe. We're fighting to reach 6,000 subscribers, and your support actually helps us produce more film work. Also give the video a like if you want deeper X's and O's. Before we dig into the rush plan and protection breakdown, tell me in the comments, which play felt like the turning point to you? The early long run by Cook, or that stretch where Mahomes started getting hammered? Drop one line and vote Cook or pressure. You could feel it from the very first drive. The Bills came in with a plan to make Patrick Mahomes second-guess everything. Their pass rush wasn't about sending 6 guys or throwing exotic blitzes. It was about controlling the edges and spying him into mistakes. That's what made this game so frustrating to re-watch. Buffalo didn't reinvent defense. They just executed it better. Look at how they used Joey Bosa. Yeah, that's right. Bosa looked like he had stepped out of a time machine, back to his prime. Every snap, he played with violent hands and elite timing. Against Jawaan Taylor, he used that little hesitation move, a split second. Freeze! Before driving the long arm straight into Taylor's chest. Once Taylor's balance broke, Bosa dictated the pocket depth. Mahomes couldn't set his feet, couldn't reset, and had to adjust mid-throw. That's why those intermediate passes to Noah Gray and Hollywood Brown sailed high. This wasn't just about one guy winning, though. The Bills' defensive structure was brilliant. They rushed 4, but 2 of those linebackers played spy roles, mirroring Mahomes' movement. You could see it on those third and medium downs. The edge would collapse, and those linebackers would close the window the moment Mahomes thought about scrambling. He had no clean exit. That kind of containment forces a quarterback to either throw off balance or take a check down that doesn't move the sticks. Now, that's where Kansas City's offensive rhythm broke down. Receivers like Rashee Rice and Thornton were running deep crossers, But when Mahomes rolled out to the opposite side, they were moving away from him, not toward open space. That's a fundamental spacing issue. You could see Travis Kelce open late on a few of those plays, but Mahomes' mechanics were already compromised. His feet weren't synced to his eyes, and by the time he tried to reset, the pressure was already there. And listen, we've seen Mahomes work magic under pressure before, but this was different. It was controlled chaos that never gave him a rhythm. The Bills didn't rely on luck. They dictated where he moved, and once he moved, they punished him for it. It's the same formula that's given Kansas City trouble in the past. Force Mahomes to roll right, cover the flood, and close lanes from the backside. It's simple, but it's been effective when teams have the personnel to pull it off. The silver lining? These issues are fixable. The Chiefs' offensive line just needs to recognize stunts faster and set firmer inside before sliding. Mahomes has to trust his drop, not drift into pressure. And the play calling can help too, with more quick game and rhythm throws to neutralize that containment. Who's to blame for this? The offensive line, the protection scheme, or Mahomes holding the ball too long? Let me know in the comments. Just type OL, scheme, or Mahomes. If you're enjoying this deep dive, help us hit our goal of 6,000 subscribers. Subscribe right now, tap that bell, and drop a like so we know you want more film breakdowns like this one. If there's one part of this game that stung the most, it was watching. The Bills control the ground game from start to finish. James Cook didn't just get lucky. He exposed the Chiefs' edge defense and made them pay over and over again. You could see it clear as day on film. The Bills didn't need huge holes. They just needed angles, and Kansas City gave them plenty. Let's break this down. Buffalo's run design was built around outside zone and duo looks. Plays meant to create horizontal displacement at the line of scrimmage. What that means is, instead of trying to run straight through the Chiefs' front, they moved them sideways. Once they got defenders like McDuffie and Chanel flowing laterally, Cook just had to pick a crease and explode. And that's exactly what he did. One of the most frustrating sequences came when Buffalo used heavy sets with tight ends and receivers blocking down on the edge. You had a wall forming outside the tackle, and McDuffie found himself pinned in poor leverage positions multiple times. He's usually excellent at reading the run, but the Bills consistently got him blocked out of the play. Then you add in Jalen Watson and Brian Cook taking rough pursuit angles, and suddenly a 4-yard gain turns into 14. The problem wasn't effort. It was discipline. The Chiefs' linebackers, especially Chanel and Tranquill, were getting washed out too easily. Once they lost their gap integrity, the entire front lost structure. When you rewatch that long Cook run to the perimeter, it's obvious. The backside pursuit hesitated, the edge got sealed, and Cook just turned the corner untouched. That can't happen against any playoff-caliber offense, especially not one that uses motion as well as Buffalo does. Now, it's fair to say this was a tough matchup. The Bills had their offensive line healthy and clicking. But still, Kansas City looked reactive instead of aggressive. The Bills were dictating tempo, motioning, shifting, forcing the Chiefs to adjust on the fly. And Kansas City never got back to a base alignment they were comfortable in. That hesitation cost them the edge again and again. So what's the fix? Better contained discipline, cleaner pursuit angles, and improved communication pre-snap. These are details that can be cleaned up over the bye week. Who do you think needs the biggest adjustment after this game? Is it McDuffie, Watson, or the front seven as a whole? Drop your pick in the comments. And if you love this kind of deep film talk, do me a favor. Hit subscribe right now. We're pushing hard to reach 6,000 subscribers, and every single one counts. Smash that like button if you believe the Chiefs can fix these run issues before the playoffs. All right, let's talk about something positive. Because even though this game was frustrating, it wasn't hopeless. Late in the second half, Kansas City's defense started to find some rhythm, and a few key moments showed exactly why this group still has championship DNA. The big turning point was Chris Jones. All game long, he'd been doubled, chipped, and shadowed. But in the fourth quarter, he finally broke through. You could see the difference instantly. Jones fired off the snap with better leverage, attacked Spencer Brown straight up, and forced Josh Allen to move off his spot. That pressure led to one of the best defensive plays of the night, a sack that gave the Chiefs' offense one last chance to fight back. What made that sequence special wasn't just Jones's dominance, it was how the rest of the line responded. For most of the night, Allen had been sitting comfortably in the pocket. But when the Chiefs started mixing in zone looks and disguising their coverages, Buffalo's timing faltered. Allen was expecting man coverage, and suddenly the Chiefs rotated into zone, clogging throwing lanes and forcing him to hold the ball. That's when the pressure finally hit home. Players like Leo Chanel also deserve a mention. He had a rough start, getting washed out in the run game, but late in the fourth you could see him playing faster and more decisive. That sack he shared with Jones? That's a result of staying physical and not giving up even when the scoreboard says otherwise. That kind of grit matters down the stretch of an NFL season. And honestly, that's the kind of defensive identity Kansas City has thrived on under Steve Spagnuolo. Bend early, adjust late, and turn chaos into controlled aggression. The unit just has to start faster. When they execute their rush games and rotations with discipline, they can still make life miserable for any quarterback, including guys like Josh Allen. With the bye week coming up, this is the perfect time for Jones and the defense to reset, review tape, and build on that late surge. Because those flashes, the disguised zone looks, the tighter contained lanes, the late down stops, that's what the team can carry into the second half of the season. Do you still believe Chris Jones is the centerpiece of this defense moving forward? Drop a quick yes or no in the comments. And don't forget, if you're still watching and loving these breakdowns, hit subscribe right now. Help us reach that 6,000 subscriber milestone, tap the bell, and drop a like so YouTube keeps pushing Chiefs content to real fans like you. Here's the truth. This loss to Buffalo hurt, but it might be exactly what the Chiefs needed. Sometimes you need to get punched in the mouth to remember what it takes to dominate. And heading into the bye week, Kansas City has the perfect opportunity to reset and clean up the details that cost them this one. Let's start with the offensive line. The first fix is all about protection discipline. Buffalo's defensive front used simple four-man rushes but disguised their alignments just enough to cause hesitation. The solution? Faster recognition and more trust in communication. Sliding protection based on pre-snap alignment instead of waiting for movement will help Mahomes stay clean. The Chiefs also need to lean more on chip blocks, especially when a guy like Bosa is cooking off the edge. Give Mahomes just one more second, and the offense looks entirely different. Next, the passing rhythm. When the Bills forced Mahomes to roll right, the routes downfield didn't adjust. That has to change. Expect Andy Reid and Matt Nagy to re-emphasize scramble drills in practice. Receivers breaking back to the ball, finding soft zones instead of running themselves out of sight. Those minor details could easily turn near misses into first downs. Defensively, the biggest priority is edge containment and gap integrity. Kansas City's linebackers have to read faster, flow cleaner, and trust each other's assignments. You can't over-pursue against backs like James Cook. A single false step can open up an entire sideline. That's something they'll drill during the bye. Staying square, setting the edge, and forcing runs back inside where help exists. It's fundamental football, but that's what separates playoff defenses from the rest. And let's not forget tackling angles. Brian Cook and Jalen Watson had tough reps, but both are capable of much better. Expect the coaching staff to review that tape hard, not to blame, but to build. Because when this defense plays fast and unified, it's still one of the best in the AFC. The good news? The Chiefs are still very much in control of their season. They've got time to rest, heal, and prepare for a crucial stretch of games in December and January. The road to the postseason is still theirs to shape, and this team knows how to respond when challenged. So what do you think? Is this bye week coming at the perfect time for Kansas City? Let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of 6,000 subscribers. Tap the bell so you don't miss our next breakdown after the bye, and hit like if you still believe this team can flip the switch when it matters most.